Thank
And
you.
now in the back, we have Cherie. Are you
Hello.
there? You're there.
Can you
Perfect.
guys hear me? I was like, no problem, me too, going over. I was super interested, so no problem. I
Yeah, there's
wanted to say no
no
problem, but
problem.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
Okay, we'll take it from here.
Okay, great. So I want to make sure that I'm active in the chat as we go through. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I need to understand where everybody's already at since this is a project demo and less of a presentation. I want to know, let me make sure this window's going to share. Okay. So what I'd love to know from inside the chat, so bear with me while I figure out how to get, when you start to share your screen, Zoom is, I use Google Meet, so I get a little, I want to be able to see the chat at the same time that I'm sharing my screen. Okay. So what we're going to go through in this session is how to create deep context and give AI context windows. Giving it like a sequence of context because AI has a way of holding context, but we're going to use today's session is going to be about building that context out of brand analytics and product opportunity explorer and then scraped search results. So my question would be for everybody here that's in the chat, is there anybody that is either not familiar with brand analytics? And if you could give me some feedback right now, how you're using brand analytics, what kind of insights you're pulling from brand analytics, and how you use that data to power your own strategies. And if you could put that in the chat, that would be great. I just want to make sure I don't leave anybody behind as we go kind of window to window and I show you guys some tagging. So it seems like either the chat's quiet or I'll just present. Okay, here we go. Okay, great. Okay, so there's somebody. Okay, what I mean is, how are you using brand analytics manually today? That's what I mean, DP. So when you're D, so when you're, um, how often do you download your brand analytics data around your market and how are you using it for analysis? How do you use brand analytics to help you make decisions? Okay, great. Great. Okay, so we're using it for our keyword list for PPC. We're using it, um, how your changes, okay, make a difference in actions. It's interesting. Um, Using analyzing it is the ACE and share on keywords. Yes. Conversion rate. Perfect. Um, just the flow so far. I use it for demographics, basically, not much more. Way underutilized. Yeah, I agree, Melissa. There's so much more you can do with it, and hopefully you'll get that out of the session. Um, what percentage compared to other sellers? Okay. Um, New services, I agree. So D, we are going to look at that. We're going to go across a market, and then Gary, you're a novice, so we'll be sure to I wanted to know how much I need to share the actual brand analytics versus the data. Deep research for competitive analysis and market research. Okay, so I'm going to start in the BA search terms tab. But before I do that, let me walk you guys through kind of the layers of creating context in the models. We're going to work with Claude, we're going to work with ChatGPT, and we're going to work with Perplexity, all to gain insight. In this model, normally I'm bringing in data from my own internal brand that I'm managing their data. So search query performance ASIN, advertising performance at the search term and targeting level, and of course, business reports. Those are the 4 docs I need internally. But today we're just going to go external. And we're going to look at how we would look at external data using and how we would tag that data to inform the models about our business. So starting with brand analytics, it's like the kind of the heart of how to do it. So what you're going to be looking at is just the normal like search term analysis. So if I'm going to pull this down, okay. So if I'm over here, you can either search by a brand that you want to understand the keywords driving their sales. You can go in and take a product if you want to look at a direct competitor's search terms. And then you can also just go add a seed search term to get an entire list. So I want to talk about how you would use this to really understand the market before you build ad campaigns, Um, okay. D, thanks. So this is like it's going to show you like again like before you build an ad campaign, before you try to optimize your listings, you should get a full understanding because one of the things that's so key is that people move within aisles. So if they're in the coffee aisle, obviously people have coffee catalogs, brands have catalogs of products. So it's important to go out in brand analytics to see what's trending and then come in to see where you're at. So what I've done here, there's going to be a few things you need to give the model. You're going to want to give it your tag data, and I'm going to walk you through tags. I've got the chat open so we can have a discussion. If I lose anybody on tags, if I can help with the tagging process. I use Airtable, and I cannot advocate enough for how great, this is an Airtable base, how great Airtable is for tagging data and for kind of building out these models that then you can provide the context to the larger frontier models. The other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to give it the training guidelines. I'll share all these files at the end of the conversation. You're going to give it training guidelines. So what is essentially what we're going to do in this session is we're just going to turn Claude and Perplexity and ChatGPT into data analysts. So that would be my area of expertise that I've been doing for 25 years. So going in, and I've trained a million like mid and junior level data analysts, and I've hired really seasoned data analysts. So you're really going to be using the models to analyze your data. And that's the goal of this session, is to be able to train the models on your data so that anytime you upload a file into a project, and we'll talk about that, the model has a full context of your market, your products, your competitors, and all the details it would need to help give you good answers. So the first thing you're going to do, obviously, is you're going to give it training guidelines, and I'll share this at the end of the session. So what this is you're going to take the files you're downloading. So if we're looking at like a brand analytics file, we want to train the model on what each of these columns mean and then how they use that in analysis. So in this one, they need to know, here's a good one, the search frequency rank. And if you didn't have this in the project, you'd have to, with every file you upload, tell it some very specific details, which can really be holding the wrong context in memory versus what you want it to do, which is make decisions for you. So a good example would be search frequency rank. It's obviously Amazon's rank of the search term based on the frequency for a given range. But here's the thing that the model needs to know in advance, that lower numbers equal higher volume. And this helps it like prioritize keywords for targeting. So having that little nugget, and you can really expand on these based on how you look at the numbers, but giving these kind of training guidelines to the model before you hand them your brand analytics file, now it's going to have an understanding of what do all these columns mean? How do I use them in analysis? And then sometimes I do this very layered in terms of the analysis piece, but this is a really good basic understanding. So in this doc that I'll share today, we've given the model everything for a brand analytics file, everything from a scraped search results page, because again, we're just doing market analysis today. Everything from product opportunity explorer, which is another way to get a whole nother set of data around our market. And we've looked at the niches, our search terms, and our products. So we're going to go table by table, and we're going to work through each of these, but the model needs to be trained on each of these files. So that's going to be the first step to training. Again, far better than a prompt, because otherwise, in every single prompt, you would have to tell it these details as you prompt it in. But by giving it as a project guideline, then that's going to provide context that you don't have to do. The other thing is going in with a simple master prompt, and you can use ChatGPT to write your master prompts. Here's an example. I'll share it again after this session. So basically, this is, you are an expert Amazon data strategist trained to interpret and analyze marketplace data from brand analytics, product opportunity explorer, and search results. Your role is to surface actionable insights that help e-commerce brands discover product opportunity niches, understand shopper behavior, and identify market gaps. So this is like the basic system prompt. That's when you think about building a business context window into a model so that it's got this curve of what it'll actually remember and really do well with. You want to be thinking about the stack, almost like a sandwich. So your first stack is the system prompt. It's the very basic, but the better the system prompt, the better it's going to work. And then the next stack would be this layer of context into like, okay, here is the columns and the reports, and here's how I want you to analyze them. We could add another layer that's more advanced, which is how these columns relate to each other and how they relate to our business. But we're just going to look at market and get trends in this session. So now we're going to talk about the next layer, which is probably like the secret sauce, which is going in and tagging and labeling. So if you think of like, if you think of ChatGPT, if you think of any of these frontier models, they've all been trained with labeled data. So, little pictures, of like a cow, baby cow, mama cow, cow pregnant, cow not pregnant. So all the models that you're in today have had extensive labeled data, and that's how they learned everything that they have learned. So by labeling your business data in a similar way, you can really give the models a clear advantage. So I'm going to start with this data unlabeled. So you can see I've got columns here. Let me tell you what these columns are. And then we're going to give a little bit of pause to make sure we're clear on the system prompt and the training guidelines. But going back in here, I'm going to show you the columns that we create custom. So this is going to be your brand analytics report. The key is to make sure that you've taken every seed query going all the way back. So let's unfilter this. So I'm going to take all these filters off. Okay. So now I start with raw brand analytics data, and I've added the following columns for labeling to give my model more context. And you can know that this same context applies to your business report. So like once you've given it this big picture context out of brand analytics, now it will have the same context around your search term reports and around your targeting reports out of ads and around different things that really matter within your actual report, search query performance at the ASIN level. So when you take your business data in on top of this labeling, now the model fully understands your market, understanding what's relevant for your brand, what's not relevant. This is a really great way for you to train it on what's good and bad in your own reports, especially ad reports. Okay, so let's go back over here and let's make sure that from the beginning, like Dee was saying, that not maybe everybody's up to speed. So let's go back and I'm going to show you what I mean. So here's the columns I add. The seed query. This is going to be the query that I put into the model to get the keywords that I'm going to tag. And I'm going to go as broad as possible to start and then narrow it down as I go. But I want the broad market because I want the broad trends. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it a brand plus column. A brand plus column means this is a branded keyword. Very important to add those in because market dynamics, it's very important when it's branded. Okay, well, so good to see you, Dean. No worries, it'll be recorded. It is late, right? So no worries. Everything will be recorded. I'll be sure that all these files are saved and templates, and Dee's here to kind of lead the charge on a little more advanced stuff to make sure I'm not overlooking anything for you guys. So Dean, have a good night. Sorry it's so late. So the next column is going to be, the brand name, and you're going to notice that I've only tagged, just so you know, in this base, we've tagged things related to coffee beverages, assuming that I sell coffee beverages, I don't sell coffee makers or filters or grinders, and this will build into this next. Next, we tag what's not relevant, meaning these are queries that are not relevant to my brand. And then over here, this is where I've added like coffee broad. So this is like where the category is far broader, going back to, again, machines and grinders and filters and syrups and creamers. I'm just going to focus on the top coffee beverages because that's the market I'm in. Okay, so one of the key things to really pay attention to here, and this is why tagging is so powerful. So the first layer that we would drag down is we would come in and we would say, okay, let's go where, let's do coffee broad is tagged, so you get the difference. Okay, so this is all the broad coffee terms. And it's important to remember these keywords are key to at least understand behind the market. If you've ever looked at an ad report, this is about how the money you spend matters. If you've looked at an ad report, then I can tell you that you've noticed you get tons of impressions on detail pages and not in search. You can see automatic campaigns give you slews of search terms that aren't relevant to your brand. It's because of this type of data. And there's nothing better to build an extensive negative list than these terms that we've tagged. And keep in mind that these frontier AI models, all of them, they all use tokens. So when you think of a token, they're easily going to break things down based on seed terms or like individual like things within the context. So by you tagging this, you're giving it like a dictionary of everything in your category, and you're creating the tokens in advance, which goes for far better analysis, far better accuracy, no hallucinations. You just get a really custom GPT. Can Airtable pull or store data beyond quarterly? Andy, you can. That's an interesting thing. So when you pull down the brand analytics, I'm going to use it for like the pulse on where the market's at today. If you wanted to store data historically, Andy, give me a little more context. What would you use that historic data for? Okay, I'll wait for you to come back on that because it depends on how you would use it. Because I consider Amazon's markets, they move so fast. Looking at year over year trends. So if I were looking at my own business, I'd look at my own business data for the year over year trends. Search by performance at the ASIN level would be the ideal report out of brand analytics. If you look at market trends year over year, that can be hard because it just changes so dramatically. And I would say though, Andy, like Airtable can store the files, but if you want like a running archive, you would need to use Google BigQuery is probably your best solution for that. But again, it just depends on how you want to use the data. But no, Airtable, you could bring it in every quarter, and then you could compare your quarterly with tags. But again, you might get more out of a search query performance ASIN report for your business versus the market because these markets move really fast. So the first thing I've done is taken all the broad terms that just aren't related to the coffee beverage category, and I've tagged them as broad. So now I'm going to take this filter, I'm going to filter those back down. So now I'm here with just beveraged coffee, which I think is huge if you're really thinking about how big these categories are on Amazon and also trends that you want to watch. Oh, so you're seasonal. Okay, yeah, I get that. I would say Google BigQuery or putting in a Q4. You could definitely do this in Airtable, Andy. Do a Q4 2024, Q4 2025, and every quarter upload that data. And yes, you can save it in Airtable for sure, and then compare over quarters. I do it over months. So the next thing we want to go into is we're like, okay, so here we are. We are just now into coffee beverages. And I want to really point this out for you guys. Like this is the Rise Mushroom Coffee with a search frequency rank of 128, which is insane. I want you to know that this particular product launched at the end of 2024. So anybody that's in the Amazon space and doesn't really understand like how things are going, like you need to understand that the kind of the legacy brand was Four Sigma. They kind of created the mushroom coffee market. But Rise is getting five times the click volume, which we'll go to another report for that, five times the click volume of the kind of legacy mushroom brand. And again, so when we talk about, I know Kevin talks about it a lot, and I completely agree. It's really important that you look at what brands are doing off Amazon. And this is a wonderful example of like, if you're in the coffee category, even if they're not selling a bean coffee, I would spend a lot of time with Perplexity and a lot of time going back and understanding what Rise Mushroom Coffee is doing off Amazon, because they are completely slaying in a category where they launched a product at the end of last year. So we're not even to the end of this year and they're this big. So I think it's important that sometimes these kind of branded search trends can really show you like where to do deep analysis in a model like Perplexity to understand what they're doing off Amazon. So now we go in, and again, if I'm in the coffee beverage category, which I am, I have a whole bean coffee. Okay, for this one SKU. Okay, so helium 10. So Shane's saying that helium 10 is saying they're selling 12K per month or six, oh, no, I'm sorry, 12K a unit or yeah, 550K a month for this one SKU, right? So it's super interesting to look at that. And more importantly, to pay attention to the fact that this was launched a year ago. Because I think a lot of people on Amazon have this mistaken understanding that like they can't do this, or a category like coffee where Amazon is very heavy on ships and sold by. Rise obviously did not pay attention to the memo because they've come in and just slayed it. So again, we need to understand everything this brand is doing off Amazon, and this is the kind of signal you want to use it for. Even if I'm selling a bean coffee, I want to understand where the coffee category is going, because obviously I need to launch other products within that vertical because I need to keep people in aisle. So this is going to show us, and here's where the tagging comes in. So we've tagged everything with a brand plus that is a branded term. And then this, you can see, which brands are trending up, like Javi in the protein space, Rise in the mushroom space. And you can really see that like the type of coffee, which is also trendy, is also trending in Amazon as a search term for the brand. Then you can kind of get an understanding of all the branded terms. Very important to know. We could do an analysis in Claude of which, like, this is where the tagging kind of gives us something different. So let's go in and say where the brand name is going to be Rise. And there's a few spellings of it. So I had to kind of change my filters a couple times. Is any of. Okay. Boom and boom. Now here's why it's different, because you can look at Rise as like the number one and say, oh, this is how much market share they have. But when they're tagged up, and again, we don't have to analyze this. Claude and ChatGPT and Perplexity can do that, but really Claude and ChatGPT can do the basic analysis. But this is where the tags help, because now collectively, this shows you all the keywords for Rise. Right? So instead of looking at a single search term, you've taken all the keywords from coffee. Okay, could you possibly show, okay, could you possibly show how you got the base data in Amazon at some point? I'm totally lost. I don't want to lose you. So let's go back in here. Okay, how I did this base. I'll back it for you, and then you tell me if I've got this. Okay, so here's where you have the seed query. Right? I'm in brand analytics. Great, I'm here to help. Okay, so you're gonna come back. First keyword I pull in is coffee. This Zoom always wants to like pull me up in the share. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and search for coffee, refine the results. Now it's gonna give me all the coffee keywords, and I'm gonna tag them later, which is the biggest part of the project, but it only needs to be done once because your market is your market. Okay, so let's go ahead and generate a download. Simple view, generate a download. Boom, I would open the download manager to get it, right? You can go ahead, I'll pop it in, it should open for you. Okay, now I go to my next seed query. So I know I wanna understand the beverage category, and I can tell that in the beverage category, we have mushroom coffee, we have coffee pods. Let me unfilter this from Rise because we want to go back a second. We have coffee pods, we have instant coffee, we have coffee beans. So let's run those through brand analytics so we get a more comprehensive report. Okay, so now I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to say, okay, let's see what's going on for coffee pods and refine those results so I get those seed queries. So I'm basically taking my coffee query and then I'm letting it kind of show me what are the sub queries that I need to download. Okay, so I'm going to download this, and I'm sorry to keep the chat on one side. It's making it kind of tricky to navigate. Generate another download. Okay. Now I'm going to go in, I'm going to say, okay, mushroom coffee. We know that is just like the boss. Okay, mushroom coffee. Okay, we're going to go ahead and refine our results. Yes, this is Seller Central. This is in Seller Central. It is, Dee, it is in Seller Central. Should I navigate you there? Okay, so you're going to refine that. You're going to generate a download. Yeah, could be wrong. Okay, so D, this is the brand analytics search term reports that you use. Am I correct? So what you're going to basically do, let me take you guys there. Okay, so when you're in Seller Central, you're going to go to Search Analytics, top search terms. And that's going to take you to this view. And you can search it by product, ASIN, by brand, or by search term. I use all of them. And then obviously search query performance is where we get the juicy stuff on our brand. And then search catalog performance on our products. But this is top search terms. Is that the question you were asking me, Dee? Okay, I think so. So if not, just let me know. Okay, so then, yes. Yeah, okay, good. Does everybody got it? Okay, good. So we're all in there. So now we're going to the download manager and you're going to be able to download these reports. Boom. You're going to download these reports right here. You can see I've been downloading lots of reports for clients. So download, download, download. Okay, now you're going to come back. You're going to import them into Google Sheets. I just don't know why this would be in Brand Analytics. It's all in Brand Analytics. So this is, yeah, this is where you can get the understand the market of like the trends across the market, brands that are selling really well, keywords that are driving demand, which products are selling and clicking best and converting best. So we'll kind of go through that. So let's go ahead and I want to go ahead and kind of build through this. So from here, we're going to go ahead after our reports are in. Of course, don't say sorry. I want you to understand. That's why I have the chat open. So I've gone ahead and pulled in the coffee keywords, the coffee pods keywords, the coffee beans keywords. Remember, I'm selling a coffee bean, but I want to go further out. I've gone ahead and pulled together just these very like broad terms. So now we're going to tag them by the customer need. So if they're branded, we're going to put a plus, which shows a huge amount of market share going to brand. And the reason it works is because you can then filter your table by, you can come in and say brand plus is empty. So these are going to be your category keywords that are now available to you. These are the top category keywords within the coffee beverage space. Or you can go where brand plus is checked. And now you can understand that these are all the brands in coffee and who has share. So from there, you can then go ahead and you're going to tag the customer need. So if it's a mushroom, it's a mushroom. If it's a pod, it's a protein, it's a powder, it's a mushroom, it's an instant. So then that's going to go ahead and give the model and understanding of all the different keywords and kind of what buckets they fit in and how they can tokenize this data with any uploaded file. So tell me if is anybody lost so far, or is everybody clear on how this is built? Okay, so that's such a great question. Like, do we want to tag them? You can use the best model to do it is ChatGPT. So you can use GPT. Okay, you want me to move faster. Okay, so you can use GPT to go ahead and tag everything, but it's not going to get it perfect. You are going to have to do some manual tagging in Airtable to get it right. It's definitely going to move through those. So once you have everything tagged, then you're going to go ahead and drill down to what is not relevant for your brand. So now I've tagged things that are not relevant, like broad coffee. So I can filter again and I can go and say, okay, so I can say here, like the not relevant is, I'm going to go ahead and say not relevant is empty. So I have this. And then I have the broad is also there. And then I'm going to also say where brand plus is not relevant. Okay. So now I sell a whole bean coffee. You can use Google Sheets, Andy, as well. You can totally use, and no, you can use AI, John, to take this data and then analyze exactly what Rise is doing off Amazon. compared to Four Sigma. But these are the brand names that would give you the intel from doing this tagging to understand where to go. It would take many sessions to go through each, different query. So
Cherie,
once,
Cherie, it might be best to just keep going and then let some of the questions we answer them at the end. It might help
okay,
it be
sure. I just want to make sure I
more,
didn't lose
yeah,
anybody like
yeah,
along the way, but it does seem to be like where
yeah,
people
yeah,
are in different spaces
yeah.
along there.
That's,
Okay. So from here, once everything is tagged up, now you have like your normal kind of all the keywords related. I sell a coffee bean. It's a dark roast coffee bean. It's an espresso coffee bean. So by tagging this, I'm going to have a really clean list of keywords. Now we're going to move over and pull some product opportunity data because again, it gives you the same type of keyword data. This is going to be like the basic niches of coffee, like having an understanding of which is branded, which is going to be just general coffee drinks, and which of these are relevant for my brand. So then I'm going to go ahead and filter this in to where we're going to go ahead and let's just do the ones that are relevant for my brand is checked. Okay, so now from all those niches, but what's great about this is then it allows you to go in and understand, okay, what are the top search terms driving for this market? Which will then allow you to go and pull the physical search terms. Like again, you're trying to build a really structured keyword list of all the terms and then understand which of those terms you should be using within both your listings and within you'll be using different models to analyze how those search terms are influenced in terms of sentiment. So from here, now I understand the top search terms for where I have a whole bean coffee, I have espresso beans, it's organic, it's dark roast, and I have the keywords that I would query. So from there, you'll go and scrape the search results. And that's going to give you, I've used a Helium 10 extension to do that. Very simple stuff, just the H10 extension. That's going to give you an understanding of the top ranked products. You get the rank out of Helium 10, you filter it so there's no sponsored because you just want the organic rank. So now you're going to have an understanding of which titles are ranked highest. So you're going to have an understanding of, okay, these are the titles that are ranked, these are the titles that are ranking highest. Then you can come in and go into the search term view. So from search terms, you can, again, by filtering down the same data, you can go in and understand, like, this is a really key table by taking the same keywords back through the product opportunity explorer. And I'm sure you guys know where that's at. I'll answer at the end if you don't. We just have to go through a lot of different screens, so I didn't want to lose you guys. So in the product opportunity explorer, now we can understand where is the search volume growth. We can understand which of these keywords is trending up and down. And I can filter it back out in the market because I think this is, again, the very best way to analyze a market, not just your product. So let's go back and say where this is. I'm going to go ahead and just go back. So now if I go back, I can start to see which of these keywords are going to be trending across and which of these niches is going to be trending across. So you start to get an understanding of where, in which places these are trending, and then you can bring these files into any of the frontier models to analyze. So now from here, you have your search terms, and you can do the same thing where you can filter it down and filter it where your search term is just going to be relevant. Not relevant is filtered out. And now you have this list of keywords and you have a complementary list of titles, the titles that are doing best for those keywords to be analyzed. Then over here, so you have two kind of places of data that you've brought in. You have products here coming out of Product Opportunity Explorer, which will then show you which of the products are getting the most clicks, because we know that's a big signal for BSR. So this is going to show you which products are holding the most click share. And then if you pull the search results on the same keywords, then you're going to have an understanding of which of these titles is also ranking. So then we can like cross-reference which titles rank and which titles have really good click share. So that's going to be how you basically train the model on the back end. You build a project. So let's go into Claude. And so basically you will have your system prompt at the project level. Then you'll have your files at the project level, and then we can have conversations with Claude about any particular part of this market that we want to discuss. Same kind of thing with ChatGPT. You can use this to tag, you can use it to create templates, and you can use it to create a lot of like the dictionaries of the terms, but it does still need a little bit of human labeling to get it right. And so again, these files become like your basic project files. So as you go to like prompt the models are fully trained on your particular data. So Kevin, I know we're going to go back to Q&A, but my goal within this session was to understand what data sets the audience would want to get from brand analytics versus just doing random queries.
Yeah, I understand.
So can we get that so that we have an understanding?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
It was just when we were going, like, they can't see the question, so it was a little confusing when you're
okay.
You start and stopping, so that they that was
yeah. No, I'm sorry. I was trying to make sure that I understood like everybody here in this session, like what their challenges were and what kind of data they would want to get from the model.
Yeah, no worries.
No worries. Let me kind of pull that in too. Sometimes it does that. So let's go back over to the chat. Okay, great. Okay, great. So I see it. Sorry about that you guys didn't see that. So are there any questions that you guys would want to prompt this particular data set to understand more? Like, why don't we start with understanding which brands have highest percentage? We can understand, which of these do we want to look at the overall market niche? I think I'll just start querying since, again, I think it's hard to keep up with everybody at the same time. So let's go ahead and just start like asking queries, but I want to be sure since I only have 5 more minutes. So we're asking like the right questions. Again, this session was how to build the context in, and then you can query the data however you see fit. But my goal for this session was to show you how, because that's what takes the most time, is to build good data sets that have the right tokenized tags that will build the context you need to get the answers you want out of the files. So Kevin, I think I am going to stop because I could see that Andrew is here. I think we could go through a series of prompts, but I know I'm going to run over.
No, it's okay if you want to show something or ask a couple questions. That's no problem.
Are you sure? Because I don't want to like, I really wanted to show people how to build the context. So
yeah, go ahead. You got a late start anyway, so it's okay.
Okay, great. So let's go ahead and just start with the brand analytics. He's already got it in the context window. So let's go ahead and do a quick understanding of, okay. And good evening, Claude. It might take a minute for my audio to pick it up. Good evening, Claude. Can you please look at the brand analytics search term file and do a quick analysis and give me an artifact that breaks down all of the brands with demand in order? And so then we can take the same data and go over to Perplexity. I'm waiting for Claude to answer this. And then we can also go over to Perplexity and we can ask specific questions about sentiment in the market for the top search terms. And I think that's another really interesting way to query the data. And one thing I really wanted to make note of as we go through this is one of the other things in the context window is the best way to feed chats, because you have a chat limit and sometimes you'll run out of bandwidth or context window. The best way to do that is to download a markdown file of the chat. And I really like this markdown extension here. It has a free version, it has a very low cost paid version, but this is a great way with Claude to not download the markdown file for the whole thread because you want to save your context. So you can download markdown files for any chat you have, and that's really the best way to feed it cross-platform. So if I'm going to have a long conversation with Claude just around these different analysis points, I'm going to download it as a markdown and I'm going to move it over to perplexity would be my next model that I would load the data into, but I would load it in as a markdown file. Okay, so we need to get him into his output. He's doing something weird in the output. Okay, we need to direct him on that. So normally he does not. Okay, Claude, I need you to. Let me let him finish this and I'll tell him output. Normally he does it in normal language, but he's got something going on here. Okay, so now he's gone ahead and he's put it together so that we can have an understanding of how he built this. So now we can understand like where the brand demand is and what position it's in. Again, you don't need software. It can break it all down for you. And it's going to show you exactly where each brand's dominance is and how it comes together. So now you're going to get an understanding of like the top tiered brands, the next tiered brands, the third tiered brands. And you can also instruct the model on how you want the output, which I started to do. So let's now look at his top brand insights. Rise Superfood leads with the highest demand score. It appeared in 151 search terms with 97 number one positions. So see how it's looked at the brand analytics. It understands the positions of that file, showing strong dominance in the mushroom coffee space, Starbucks, and then it brings them in. Emerging challengers, which I always think is good to see. So let's go ahead and ask Claude again, though, like to do this based on the customer needs. Claude, can you break down the customer needs within this category based on the brand analytics file? Please rank the customer needs highest to lowest and be sure to use aggregated numbers across all the search terms tagged with each individual need. Okay. So now Claude can go ahead and he'll go ahead and take the brand analytics file and he's going to go ahead and break it down and we're going to see what customer needs look like. And then we'll also have him theme all my coffee bean keywords into a group. And then we'll take those groups through Perplexity to get a better understanding of how the market is trending. So we'll let Claude go ahead and cue this and just know that you could ask literally, like, which is why I thought we should get drilled down in the chat. You can ask a million different fantastic questions with this data once it's tagged. So once this data is tagged, the model has a complete understanding of the brands in your category, the performance of those brands in your category, the market share they hold compared to yours. So when you build these context models, it really does give you the ability to just run query upon query upon query to understand your data. And Claude's just going to be an amazing analyst the entire time. So you don't need to analyze this data manually. So we can do, I'm going to do a couple more prompts, Kevin, if that's okay. And then just so I can get over to Perplexity and a few other models.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And this is a great way to analyze new markets that you're entering to understand what the true trends are versus just like glancing at a keyword tool or glancing at any type of data. You can aggregate it here so you get a better understanding like specific to your niche. And this is what's so amazing. I'm sure you guys see this all the time, but it's just so amazing that these models can do all this work for you and all this analysis work so quickly. So now it's going to go ahead, it's going to break it down. It's did it by category instead of search term. So now we can go ahead here, and now it's broken it down so you can understand if you were in the category where the customer need is highest. It goes from mushroom to pods to protein to K-cups to powder to whole bean, instant ground, decaf. And this lets you understand, like within the category, where things are trending, and then how you would build strategies around it. And it's going to give you the best ranked keywords. And it's great for all of that. So now let's go ahead and narrow down to, please narrow down the queries to just the whole bean queries that are tagged as relevant. Keywords that are tagged as not relevant, please disregard those. If it has a blank if it's tagged as not relevant, please disregard from the analysis, and let's look at the whole bean category, and please let me know which customer needs are highest. Sorry about my prompts, guys. I get like nervous like teaching. And the nice thing about tagging the data is it's not about prompts. Like at this point, you saw how messy I got there, just like nervous because I'm in front of a crowd. But like seriously, once it has the data and it's all tagged up, the prompts can be very simple to get good analysis out of them. So now once we get the whole bean analysis, we'll take that analysis over to Perplexity and start to understand how people are discussing the product in the market and what is trending. And we can do a quick analysis. Somebody asked about Rise mushroom coffee in Perplexity, to understand exactly what they're doing off Amazon, at least in a broad scope. But I would say that to analyze Rise mushroom in detail, you should probably spend at least a week just going after that one competitor to understand their full market share. I don't want to keep Andrew waiting. So I'm just going to move to Perplexity after this next table. But this is a great way for you to be able to kind of look across markets with very little analysis after everything is tagged, because know that when you bring in your own search query ASIN reports and your own advertising reports, it's already trained on what's relevant and what's not. So it's going to quickly pick up things in your reports that are not relevant. It's a great way to filter out search terms. It's a great way to filter out targeting, especially if you have an agency. Because now you can start to understand like what the market is doing, what you're investing in, and then how that all comes together.
Maybe we should have some background music.
Yeah, I'm gonna so now as you start to break it down, you'll start to get an understanding of where each of these keyword groups comes together. And then it's obviously whole bean is high, and then dark roast is high, espresso's next, organics next. And then it's going to pull in some of these other kind of qualifiers. So now, like if we were to take, some of these data sets over to Perplexity, let's go ahead and start on Perplexity with asking the question, can you give me a quick analysis of what Rise Superfood Mushroom is doing off of Amazon to drive the results that you're seeing in the brand analytics file? Okay. And so then we can go a little bit deeper and to understand like what is there. Okay, so high profile endorsements, influencer collaborations, It's so influencer marketing, broad influencer, aggressive paid and organic social campaigns. So they're doing social media and TikTok. They are doing brand activation events, community building, and then you could take each one of these and go further. So let's discuss, based on popular reviews, how are people discussing Rise Mushroom coffee compared to, say, Four Sigmatic, and why they're choosing Rise over other brands? Okay, so I did want to like, so you can, I would use Perplexity and I would probably set the model as Gemini to do a lot of market research on Rise, but I would pay close attention because they're doing fantastic. But I think that the main thing I want to dive into, but I don't want to spend any more time because it's time for Andrew to go next. I don't want to spend too much time prompting. So Kevin, that's it for me.
All right. Well, thank you, Cherie.
Thank you.